was showing an interest in actual violence. And that's the category really that they need to pay further attention to here. And those of us that kind of operate in that world have seen a huge growth in this. And as you rightly point out, that is largely the result of some of the material that is going around on the internet. And young people are looking at some really, really gruesome material that I think people of perhaps my or your age would really struggle to understand. And these are images of real deaths and real people actually being killed. And these are circulating around school playgrounds. And that must have an effect on individuals, teenagers, and how they feel and react to that, particularly if they're susceptible, as we know Rudakubana was.
Our review into the handling of the Southport killer under the government's counter-terrorism programme Prevent has concluded his case was closed prematurely. The review found there were a number of missed opportunities to stop Axel Rudakubana before he committed a violent crime, stabbing those 3 little girls and attempting to murder others in Southport last year. Duncan Gardham is a security journalist specialising in terrorism and espionage. Good evening to you, Duncan.
Evening, Carol.
We knew, didn't we, that there had been 3 occasions when Rudakubana was referred to the Prevent programme, but yet he wasn't stopped. But this review does expose further problems and failings in this Prevent programme.
Yes, it does. And I think what we're finding out from this review is just the kind of material that Rudakubana has been looking at. So we know that he was looking at material around the London Bridge attacks, around certainly talking about the Manchester Arena attacks. He seems to have been has shown an interest in the Israel-Palestine conflict as well, and that goes on top of the fact that he had admitted to carrying a knife into school on at least 10 separate occasions. And all that kind of piles up into a concerning picture that means that really the individuals who were dealing with him through those Prevent referrals really ought to have got someone to actually talk to him about some of the ideology that he may have been consuming. The most concerning, perhaps beyond those that interest in terrorist attacks, is that his main interest seems to have been from quite an early stage in high school shootings. And we know that is an increasing tendency to which at the time this Prevent scheme wasn't really orientated, but needs to be much more now.
And this episode and the findings of this review just really reinforce the concerns that there have been about the way that social media access to violent material, violent images can so often contribute to some of these horrendous attacks. And we've got the head of counter-terrorism, Matt Jukes, telling The Times tonight that the harm created by social media is similar to the cancer caused by smoking and warrants more serious attention. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, you know, Matt has been looking at this for a couple of years now, and there has been an increasing concern from counterterrorism police about what they call mixed, unclear, unstable ideologies. So these are not things that fall easily into categories. You're not looking at somebody who's spouting off about Islamist theories or somebody that's clearly got neo-Nazi or far-right ideology there, but somebody that may be mixing in different ideologies. And we have to bear in mind here that Rudakubana was coming from a Christian background. He doesn't appear to have converted to Islam at any stage, but he was showing an interest in actual violence. And that's the category really that they need to pay further attention to here. And those of us that kind of operate in that world have seen a huge growth in this. And as you rightly point out, that is largely the result of some of the material that is going around on the internet. And young people are looking at some really, really gruesome material that I think people of perhaps my or your age would really struggle to understand. And these are images of real deaths and real people actually being killed. And these are circulating around school playgrounds. And that must have an effect on individuals, teenagers, and how they feel and react to that, particularly if they're susceptible, as we know Rudakubana was.
Duncan Gardham, security journalist. Really really good to have you with us tonight. Thank you so much.
No problem at all. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you. How did he fall through so many gaps? It is just unbearable. The Prevent Learning Review found that Rudakubana admitted to having carried a knife more than 10 times, yet the action against him was far too weak. And despite the fact that he'd been convicted for violence and was just 17, he was easily able to order a knife on Amazon. That's a total disgrace, and it must change. There has been a threefold increase in under 18s investigated for involvement in terrorism. The government is this week contacting technology companies to ask them to remove dangerous material that he accessed. Companies should not be profiting from hosting content that puts children's lives at risk. Mr. Speaker, the Prevent programme is vital for our national security. So families need the truth about why the system failed to tackle his violence for so many years. That is why we are setting up an independent public inquiry. Like the Angelini inquiry into Wayne Couzens, it will begin work initially on a non-statutory basis so that it can move quickly into action, but with statutory powers added later as required. We will set out the terms of reference and appoint the chair once we have consulted the coroner and given the families the opportunity to comment. And in addition to examining what went wrong in this horrific case, I am also asking the inquiry to consider the wider challenge of rising youth violence and extremism. I've also tasked my department to conduct an end-to-end review of Prevent thresholds, including... So let there be no doubt, responsibility for this outrage lies squarely with the perpetrator, but equally, in the wake of such a monstrous atrocity, we have to ask every question, no matter how difficult, and where change is needed, we must act. That is now our task. We owe that to the victims, to their loved ones, and we owe it to the country. Is to get justice, and then once justice is secured,
Chair of the Select Committee, Dame Duncan Gardham.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Paramedics and ambulance services members come to pay their respects to, who've got very, very emotional. So you can see now there's some of the members of the
Community support team here in Southport.
just reading some of those messages. Yes, and we're just observing until people know.
As so many people have, Ashley, you and I have been here since Monday, and we see new faces coming to pay tribute here at this memorial that has grown over the coming days. But we also see people coming back, familiar faces turning up every day, because as this memorial grows, we feel like they have to come again. This really is a focal point, and people revisit it just to come and talk to other people about what has happened here.
It's a really powerful place to be, and we were here on Monday when this initial attack happened. There were only a few bunches of flowers, a few bouquets. It's now grown.
Did you see that, Ashna, that what you were saying, Crown Court appearance in the same building today? Yeah, to deal with bail. Mari, thank you, Mari Aurora there, looking ahead to what we expect to happen this afternoon in a